I am Sydney Brown, 38 years old. I mainly handle design and interior decoration in the construction business run by my father. Despite being the second daughter, I was skilled at DIY and arithmetic from a young age, and from elementary school, my father had special expectations of me, saying, "Sydney, you have a unique sensibility different from other children. I want you to take over my business when you grow up." Because of this, I often visited my father's workplace after school and on weekends, and sometimes we would visit unique buildings in New York together. This not only strengthened my bond with my father but also deepened my interest in architecture. However, at that time, my siblings often saw me as monopolizing my father's time, leading to conflicts among us. But as time passed, they began to understand my dreams and passions, and now they fully support me. In university, I majored in business management to take over my father's company, but exposure to spatial design classes sparked a passion for interior design as well. This new interest led me to secretly redesign the living room and my siblings' rooms. By the time I graduated from university, while I was attracted to a career as a professional interior designer, I chose to join the family business, not wanting to betray my father's expectations. It seemed my father had seen the passion I had for interior design, as after I joined the business, he decided to establish an interior advisory division for me to enjoy. "Sydney, why not try handling both architecture and interior design to make full use of your talents?" he suggested. I was truly grateful for this proposal and felt pure joy. However, there were voices within the company opposed to the establishment of this new department, and I was hesitant to make my relationship with my father public within the company. Thus, I asked my father to keep our relationship a secret. As a result, only a handful of people in the company knew that we were related. My father introduced a comprehensive plan that incorporated interior design into existing architectural projects as a new business strategy. This innovative approach significantly boosted our company's performance. I myself have been able to take on both the architectural and interior design that I am so passionate about, feeling a great sense of fulfillment and joy in my work every day since joining the company. All these achievements were undoubtedly due to my father Gerald's vision and efforts. In my personal life, I have been married to Daniel for 3 years. He also worked in sales at the same company and, with his natural sociability, played a key role as the mood maker at work. I often watched his gigs during lunch at the company's cafeteria. His humorous actions always brightened those around him, and they invariably brought a genuine smile to my face. One day, he loudly declared in the cafeteria, "Hey, attention everyone! Today is the cafeteria lady's 120th birthday. Let's sing her a birthday song," as a joke. I couldn't help but laugh and said, "Really, 120 years old?" He quickly responded, "Oh, you laughed? Good, I got the beauty's smile," and drew laughter from everyone. Such exchanges brought us closer, and eventually, our relationship deepened. Daniel always made me happy with his fun jokes. Our marriage plans were progressing smoothly, and I genuinely felt happy about our future together. However, it was difficult to find the right moment to tell Daniel that my father runs the company. I worry that saying, "My dad runs our company," might come across as arrogant, so I kept missing the chance to confess. But I believed he would understand when the time came for formal greetings at home. Although it might be a bit surprising, I have kept this a secret for a long time, considering the risk of appearing arrogant. On the special day when we were formally greeting each other at home, Daniel couldn't hide his nervousness, which was more apparent than usual. On the way home, to gauge his feelings, I quietly asked him, "Were you surprised?" "Sorry for keeping quiet. I've always worried it might sound condescending if I said it myself." He responded with a slight surprise. "What? Oh, the house? I had no idea your family home was so impressive. Is your dad like the president or something?" "Yes, that's right," I affirmed. He continued, nodding. "I thought so. Otherwise, you couldn't have such a magnificent house." I was a bit surprised and said, "Oh? Daniel, you still haven't realized?" "My dad is." He tilted his head, puzzled, and said, "Huh, what's up?" "Something on my father-in-law's face. I was too nervous to see clearly. Ha ha," and laughed it off. I sighed. "So, what? Is there a problem with your father-in-law?" he asked, to which I replied, "No, it's nothing serious. Since our marriage happened relatively quickly, there might be criticisms for not having shared all the truths. However, the fact that I was involved in a romance within the company, and that my father was the owner made this a very delicate matter for me. Right after our marriage, we were involved in a major project, and the busyness left no time to discuss my father's situation in detail. During that period, we often stayed late at the office due to work, resulting in frequent late-night meals at family restaurants. Having married within the company, we understood each other's demanding schedules well, and Daniel was particularly proactive in sharing household chores. Then, Daniel's father suddenly passed away, leaving his mother alone, which greatly concerned us. Daniel proposed that she live with us so she wouldn't be lonely. I wasn't opposed to living together, but I was concerned it would be too much for her given our late homecomings and limited days off. However, Daniel reassured me, saying, "Don't worry. Yes, we are busy, but on the other hand, my mother will help out too. And I want to be there to support her whenever needed." Knowing Daniel's strong feelings for his mother, I couldn't refuse his proposal, so we decided to live together. At that time, I didn't anticipate that this cohabitation would bring significant changes to our relationship in the future. Despite being in her 60s, his mother held very traditional views, believing that men should work outside and women should take care of the home. It's a wife's duty to support her husband and look after the family. This belief often led her to criticize my career, and I frequently faced her sarcasm and cold comments. Once, when I came home late and Daniel was doing the laundry, his mother harshly said to him, "Why are you doing that? That's the wife's job. The problem is her working outside. No matter how late it gets, she should handle it." Despite Daniel's objection that her views were outdated, his mother snatched the laundry from him and declared, "This is my house. No matter what she wants my son to do, I won't let her have her way so easily. I don't know what she's thinking, but I won't let her do as she pleases." Daniel then asked me, "Mom said that, so can you take care of it from now on, Sydney?" I replied, "What? You know I'm busy too. I was hoping you could help when you have time." He responded, "I understand. But since we're living together now, it's important that you and Mom don't get into conflict, right? I think she'll get used to our lifestyle after a while, so please bear with it until then." Reluctantly, I agreed to Daniel's proposal. The next day, when I went to do the laundry, I found his mother's clothes were also included. She frequently criticized further, saying, "Daniel can't even eat a meal made by his wife, and when there's no packed lunch, he eats dinner outside. What's the point of being married if you can't take care of your husband?" She also said, "It's because you're working that you can't have children. You should quit your job soon and have children. Maybe then you can become a bit more womanly. Furthermore, she repeatedly urged me to quit my job to take care of her son, but I countered. My father expects a lot from me. He plans to make me the head of the company eventually. Unaware that my father was the owner, she attacked. You and your father are foolish. Initially supportive, Daniel gradually began to echo his mother's criticisms under her influence. A wife should prepare her husband's breakfast and clothes in the morning. That's a wife's duty. Living together made it clear that Daniel was heavily influenced by his mother. Her commands were absolute. Daniel also had a habit of exaggerating stories. When he received the Employee of the Month award, he boasted to his mother, "I'm the best in the company." Although he was the top that month, his usual performance was average. He spoke as though he was an unparalleled talent within the company. His mother took his words at face value, praising him. "You are indeed remarkable. You are very important to the company." Daniel was pleased with her words, fulfilling his need for validation through excessive praise. Daniel expected his mother's praise and indulged in it. I was exasperated with such interactions. Around that time, a rumor was spreading at my father's company. "Hey, have you heard? The president is retiring." "Really? When is that happening?" "The details are unclear, but since there's a rumor, it might be in the near future." "Hey, has the new president been decided yet?" "Yeah, someone named Brown seems likely, but there's no one by that name among the current directors. I checked the company data, and it seems there's a young Brown in sales." "Really? Brown from the sales department?" "That guy who is always joking, and his performance is just average, right?" "So, are they bringing in the new president from outside?" "I'm not sure, but maybe that Brown guy is related to the president." "If that's true, I can't deal with this. I might quit." "Really?" "The president is retiring and Brown from sales is going to be the next president." Brown from sales as president. This rumor quickly spread and became a topic of conversation between Daniel and me. "Sydney, have you heard? The president is resigning, and it seems I'm going to be the next president." "Ah, yes, I've heard such rumors." "Really? Me as president? But I don't have any connections to the president, and I'm too young for that role. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding." "Right. But when I looked at the company list, I'm the only Brown." "What about me?" "Don't be silly. A woman in that position? That's impossible." "Oh, is that so? Could this matter really be about me? After all, I got the Employee of the Month recently, so the president must have noticed me." "Really?" "I'll go report this to Mom." "Wait, it might be too early, Daniel." Daniel left, happily heading towards his mother's room. A few minutes later, I could hear his mother's joyful voice from the room next door. Then, right after the sound of footsteps running down the hallway, the door to our room, where we were preparing for bed, burst open. "Why are you sleeping? Wake up." "What? What's happening?" "Hurry up and get ready." "Ready for what?" "My son is becoming president. We need to celebrate." "But it's 11 o'clock at night." "Don't say that. Your husband will be president. You need to prepare something." "Mom, we don't need to celebrate tonight. I'm going to sleep." "Really?" "I wanted to celebrate. Maybe next time." "Thanks, Mom." After that day, his mother's harassment became even worse. She started engaging in more malicious acts, as if trying to hinder me from going to work. One morning in particular, When I tried to wear my newly bought heels, I found them soaked in water. His mother appeared and said, "I was watering the flowers just now and accidentally spilled the watering can. Oh, your new shoes are ruined." It was unusual for her to water the plants. Her attitude made it clear she was displeased with me shopping freely. Additionally, I once caught her rummaging through my work bag. When I happened to be there and yelled, "What are you doing? Please stop," she left silently, looking embarrassed. There are countless other instances I could mention. His mother was openly hostile towards me, repeatedly being malicious. Daniel started behaving as if he were a ruler, issuing commands to me. Daniel's exaggerations were a habit from before, but now they were no longer amusing, they were just painful. Life at home became unbearable, and I often thought about divorce. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to make that decision, perhaps because I deeply believed that the old Daniel might return. Contrary to my hopes, Daniel continued to be capricious and displayed arrogant behavior within the company. One day, as I was eating lunch in the cafeteria as usual, Daniel appeared there too. I was seated far away, so he didn't notice me. At that moment, a female employee approached him and asked, "Mr. Brown, is that rumor true?" "Ah, you caught me. Can't help it, yes, I'm going to be the next president." Daniel answered proudly, flipping his hair like a character in a drama. The woman was trying to attract his attention with a sweet voice. "Really? Congratulations! Your wife must be thrilled." I felt more than jealousy, I felt a strong revulsion towards my foolish husband and left the cafeteria. Daniel was being authoritarian not just with colleagues and juniors, but also with superiors, and many openly said they would quit if he became president. Furthermore, it was revealed that Daniel had made inappropriate comments in my absence. "A woman who can't have kids is worthless." "Oh, that's my wife. But no worries, there's Dora." "A woman who can't even look after herself should be cut off quickly, and when I become president, I intend to marry Dora." With such behavior, Daniel had turned many in the company against him. Apparently, someone had reported this to the upper management. The executives were shocked and quickly informed my father, the president. I was summoned by my father, who scolded me, "You must leave that man immediately. Not only is it problematic that he is a candidate for president, but I cannot forgive him for making such statements about my daughter." "Sydney, we haven't talked much lately because I've been busy, but is he like this at home too?" my father asked. I couldn't hold back anymore, and before I knew it, I was crying. I was afraid to tell my father everything, worried that it might make things worse. But I needed someone to know the suffering I had endured, so I confided in him about the bullying from Daniel and his mother. My father was furious and said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? We should have brought you back home immediately. This cohabitation was a mistake." Moreover, it came to light that he was having an affair, which truly shocked me. I had never imagined he would do such a thing. Having believed that if Daniel returned to his former self, we could restore a good relationship, the shock was immense. However, I am not the type to stay silent and overlook things. My shock turned into anger, and I decided to demand proper accountability from Daniel and his mother. Therefore, I asked my father to come pick me up after I had resolved the situation. First, I hired someone to investigate Daniel's alleged infidelity. A week later, I had photographic evidence. As expected, the woman involved was the same one who had approached him in the cafeteria. I planned to confront Daniel with this fact the following weekend and had already informed my father. On that day, I gathered Daniel and his mother in the living room where they were relaxing and placed an envelope containing the investigation results on the table. At my father's urging, I had pre-activated the recording on my smartphone. Why should we have to adjust our schedules for you? This is unbelievable. That's right. What's going on? Look at this. With that, I pulled out the photos from the envelope images of Daniel and the female employee leaving a hotel. Oh, isn't that Dora? His mother's unexpected comment left me bewildered. Wait, you know her. She's just an acquaintance. But she's Daniel's lover, isn't she? Right, Daniel. Ah, it really is Dora. What? Yes. We recently went out to eat together, the three of us. Dora is indeed a charming woman. Hee hee. You knew Daniel was cheating? You calmly say, ah, Dora, knowing that Daniel is having an affair. Are the two of you not saying something absurd to me? That's your interpretation. And what about this affair? Don't say it's something bad. Since Daniel doesn't love you anymore, it's natural for him to be interested in other women. Daniel cheating is justified just because he doesn't love me anymore. What about my feelings? Your feelings? They are irrelevant to us. Fundamentally, the problem is that you haven't been treating Daniel properly. I have not mistreated him all this time. It's just been your selfishness. I am not your servant, nor do I deserve to be disregarded. Oh, how boldly you talk back. Dora said that once Daniel becomes the company president, she plans to be a full-time housewife to take care of him. A capable woman, unlike you. I just glared silently at my mother-in-law. Ooh, how scary. Daniel, you've been quiet for a while. Is there anything you want to say? Anything to say? My mother has already said everything. What? Actually, after discussing with my mother, I was planning to leave you once I became the president. It's out now, so it can't be helped. While saying this, Daniel pulled a brochure from a drawer and handed it to me. What is this? It's for a high-rise apartment where I, Dora, and my mother will live. The contract is already completed. It cost over $1 million. We're going to be celebrities. Ha ha ha. So you need to leave. I felt pathetic for not seeing through him earlier. To think I loved this man, I feel like I've wasted my valuable time. Understood. I will start preparing to leave. However, I must tell you one last thing: I will never forgive any of you. I will sue for emotional abuse, infidelity, and defamation. Well, you're free to try. As long as Daniel holds power, it will be easy to squash any problems. Go ahead, state your claims. Is that so? Then make sure you have no regrets. After that, I contacted my father to come and pick me up. He was waiting and replied, "I'll be there soon." 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang and my mother-in-law opened the door. I'm Sydney's father. I've come to pick her up. Oh, the foolish father of the foolish daughter. I may be a foolish father, but I do have the authority to fire your son. What? While tilting her head, the mother-in-law muttered, "Really? Like parent, like child." And then, while tossing my bag into the hallway, she said, "Your father's here to pick you up. Could you hurry up and leave?" My father witnessed this and was trembling with anger. From the entrance, he shouted loudly, "Sydney, bring Daniel here." Hearing this, Daniel told his mother, "I'll go say goodbye," and followed me towards the entrance. However, upon seeing my father, Daniel was so surprised that he lost his voice and exclaimed, "Mr. President." The mother-in-law, noticing her son's reaction, hurried to the entrance and asked in a flustered tone, "What's going on?" "I apologize for being late, but I am the president of the architectural firm where your son works." "Wait, the current president of the company where my son is supposed to be the next president. Are you the one promoting my son?" "Thank you." "Huh? But you're Sydney's father." "Huh? Could it be?" The next President Brown was Sydney. Despite the revelations, my father's anger had not subsided, and he continued to address the two of them. "First you, the elder. I've heard you've been treating Sydney terribly." "What? No, surely not." "Right, Sydney? Don't you think I've been a good mother-in-law?" "No. From the beginning you've been a terrible, harassing mother-in-law. And you, let me be clear as Sydney's father, do you not feel any shame as a man for looking down on women, bossing them around, and even engaging in an affair?" That is... "I've also heard plenty about your behavior at work." "Who said you could be president with your mediocre performance?" "Really? Daniel? You said you were unbeatable at work, right?" Let's set that aside for now, Mother. And I've heard you've been saying at work that Sydney is incapable of having children." That's not. There are multiple witnesses." "I'm sorry. This is a clear case of sexual harassment, even if she weren't my daughter. Furthermore, I hear that dissatisfaction with your conduct at work is growing, and people are quitting. Our company will never tolerate sexual or power harassment. You are being terminated immediately for compliance violations. There will be no severance pay." Daniel, unable to find words, chased after my departing father, continuing to apologize relentlessly. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law collapsed on the spot, overwhelmed by shock and seemingly lost in a daze. As this ridiculous drama came to an end, I felt a sense of relief. I left them with a bit of sarcasm. "Don't forget about the alimony." "Oh, right, everything would be resolved easily once Daniel became the president, wouldn't it?" And walked away. I subsequently demanded alimony from both Daniel and his mother. I was initially uncertain about collecting alimony from my mother-in-law, but the recorded conversation from that decisive day proved her excessive harassment, allowing me to proceed with the claim successfully. I felt particularly vindicated in punishing her, as my anger was stronger towards her than Daniel. Dora probably learned of the situation from Daniel and chose to resign from the company herself. Rumor has it that Dora, who had approached Daniel for his status, eventually broke up with him as well. Well, that's hardly surprising now. Daniel must have realized that she was after his status. As for the current situation of Daniel and his mother, so far, I haven't received a single dollar of the alimony from them. They likely are experiencing financial difficulties. According to my lawyer, my mother-in-law had completely believed in the story of Daniel becoming president and took out loans to purchase several expensive pieces of jewelry. The monthly payments are high, and now she's unemployed. After being fired, Daniel also seems to be struggling to cover his living expenses. The cancellation fees for the apartment he had contracted are in the tens of thousands of dollars, and with the alimony added, I hear his debt exceeds $100,000. However, their financial issues are no longer my concern. I'm not particularly concerned about the money, but I want both of them to take proper responsibility. If there is no payment, I am considering taking legal action. Personally, I have finally been freed from their malice and can now live my days in peace. My father feels the same, but I have caused a lot of trouble for my colleagues at work. Since I also share some of the blame, I consulted my father about a way to apologize without drawing attention, and he suggested, "How about making the company cafeteria free until you are satisfied?" I agreed with this idea. I immediately contacted the cafeteria management company and requested them to provide free meals. This special event was a big hit at the workplace. Although the budget was spent in just 1 week, this experience was a significant learning opportunity, for better or worse. While I am not quite there yet, as the next president, my resolve to be a role model has strengthened. Mom, I might be at my limit. I can't eat anything. The intermittent voice was a far cry from Sheila's usual active demeanor, conveying a fragile and weak tone. Sheila seemed to be struggling to find her voice, pleading for help. "Sheila, what's going on? What do you mean you can't eat anything?" It was clear from Sheila's first plea for help that the situation was serious. "Understood. I'll come to pick you up right away. Just wait there." I set out with Samuel to Sheila's father-in-law's house. "My name is Stacy Lewis. I will soon be 62 years old. After my husband passed away about 10 years ago, I now live with my eldest son's family and my grandchildren. I took over the management of a small restaurant that my husband founded, and when he died, I was deeply saddened and unsure of what to do with the restaurant. However, thanks to Samuel's encouragement, saying, "I'll take over, so there's no need to close the restaurant filled with memories of Dad," I decided to keep it running. Besides Samuel, I have another child. That would be my daughter, Sheila. Sheila is already married and lives with her husband. She has a son who will soon start elementary school. And she mentioned, "We're thinking of celebrating my son's first school day at your restaurant. I want to report it to Dad too." It seems Sheila had been planning this with her in-laws for some time. When I heard the news, I felt profound joy and was excitedly anticipating that day. However, on that special day, Sheila's father-in-law suddenly fell ill and was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, he passed away. At the funeral, seeing Violet Torres, Sheila's mother-in-law, in deep grief and shedding tears, my own memories of losing my husband resurfaced, and I remembered the days when I had lost my appetite. I could painfully understand what Violet was feeling. "Violet, it's hard, but I've experienced something similar. I was able to get through it with the support of my children and grandchildren. When your heart settles a bit, please show us your smile again." I couldn't just watch, I had to offer words of encouragement. In this way, we are each overcoming our grief and slowly finding the strength to move forward. However, I was indeed surprised by Violet's unexpected response. "Don't act like you understand. Despite losing your husband, you kept running the restaurant as if nothing happened," she said, glaring at me harshly. Surprised by her reaction, I understood that emotions could be unstable in such times, so I decided to let her words pass without being deeply hurt. I also understood the state of mind that might lead someone to say things they didn't want to say in tough situations. Therefore, without responding further, I exchanged a few simple greetings and left to return home. Months passed, and it was nearing the time for Sheila's son to start elementary school. I had a strong desire to attend my grandson's special day and witness his growth, but the Torres family was busy dealing with the bereavement, and I felt that the timing was not right. During this period, I suddenly received a call from Sheila, whom I had not heard from in a long time. "Mom, how are you? Sorry we haven't spoken in a while." Sheila's voice had regained its brightness. "I'm fine. You must be busy with the school preparations too. How has Violet been lately? Has she calmed down a bit?" relieved to hear Sheila's voice after so long. I asked about Violet's recent condition. Since the funeral, conversations with Violet had become somewhat strained, and there had been no direct meetings. Still, I was worried about her and genuinely wanted to know how she was managing. She seems to be regaining some energy recently, but she's also been going out more. Maybe it's a distraction, Sheila said, her voice slightly unsettled, which made me feel uneasy and prompted further inquiry. Is something wrong? You seemed to lose energy suddenly when you started talking about Violet, I asked, and Sheila hesitated before responding. It's not a big deal, but recently, she's been coming home drunk sometimes, and that worries me. Also, she began, and I became even more concerned. That is indeed troubling. But are there any other worries? I asked, and after a pause, Sheila began to speak in a more settled tone. Actually, after my father-in-law's funeral, my mother-in-law started living with us, and she doesn't do any household chores. I'm currently bearing all the responsibilities of the home. I think it's unavoidable, Sheila explained. Then, as if she had just remembered, she continued. I contacted you about the school entrance celebration. With the recent news of my father-in-law's death, I thought there was no room to consider a celebration. So I want to cancel the celebration we originally planned at your restaurant, Sheila proposed. Indeed, Violet might still be recovering, so it's worrying how she might react. But there definitely has to be a way to celebrate. What would be appropriate? I wondered aloud. It was disappointing that I couldn't attend my grandson's entrance ceremony, but I at least wanted to send a special gift to celebrate this milestone. Nevertheless, Sheila's response was unexpected. That's okay. I appreciate the thought alone. By the way, I need to start doing housework soon, so let's talk about this later, she said. I wanted to ask her the reason behind her abrupt end to the conversation, but Sheila didn't elaborate further and quickly ended the call. Her cold attitude left me feeling uneasy. I was quite concerned by her words that no celebration or blessing was necessary, as the meaning behind them was unclear. Initially, our conversation was normal, but as soon as I mentioned sending a gift, she abruptly changed the topic and ended the call. After discussing this with my eldest son, Samuel, and his family, they also suggested sending the gift by mail. While I strongly wished to see my grandson, I decided it might be bothersome for Sheila if I visited forcibly, so I ultimately chose to send the gift by mail. A few days later, after much deliberation on what to send as a school entrance gift, I chose a small bookshelf that would always be useful and sent it. However, I became worried when I hadn't heard from Sheila, suspecting the item might not have been received, so I decided to call her myself. Sheila? I sent a gift for your son, but I haven't heard back from you. Did you receive it? I asked. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been really busy lately and my response was delayed. But it has arrived safely. I truly appreciate it, Sheila answered. We continued to talk a little more, but Sheila's voice lacked its usual energy, and she seemed different from before. Concerned, I asked, "Are you okay? You don't seem as energetic as usual." No, there's nothing in particular. I'm just really busy. Sorry, but I need to hang up now. But thank you for the entrance gift, Sheila said, and ended the conversation. Her curt and brief responses left me confused and increasingly anxious. However, I tried to convince myself that it might just be a figment of my imagination, reassuring myself that Sheila was merely busy. Weeks passed with no further contact from Sheila, and the previous conversation lingered in my mind. Troubled by this, I decided to bring it up with my son, Samuel, and seek his advice. Sheila has always been reluctant to talk about her issues. I understand your concern, Mom, but maybe she dislikes parental interference, Samuel said. That's true. She's an adult, so I shouldn't worry too much, and I think it might not be right to contact or visit her too frequently. Besides, if our last call had been normal, I wouldn't have had to worry so much, I replied. Despite my growing anxiety, I strongly felt the need to avoid being too intrusive, knowing Sheila had her own family. In the midst of this, Samuel hesitated slightly before speaking softly. I don't know if I should really say this, but there's something that has been bothering me for a long time, he began. What? Do you know something? I asked, a mix of anticipation and anxiety in my voice. After a brief silence, Samuel spoke hesitantly. To be honest, I've occasionally seen Sheila's mother-in-law at a bar I sometimes go to. Moreover, she's always seen walking closely with a young man. At first I thought I was mistaken and overlooked it, but after witnessing the same scene several times, it started to bother me. Really? I can't imagine Violet doing such a thing. She was devastated by her husband's loss. I immediately countered in surprise. However, Sheila had also mentioned that since her father-in-law's death, Violet had been going out more and often came home drunk. Maybe she's trying to distract herself from her loneliness by going out. Thinking about it, Samuel's observation might have some truth to it. Samuel isn't the type to lie, and there's no reason for him to do so. Maybe Sheila's recent lack of energy could be influenced by Violet? However, since I haven't witnessed it myself and it's only what Samuel has told me, it's hard to judge. Then, I'll ask around with my friends. I can't go out much because of the store, but maybe my drinking buddies might have some information, Samuel suggested. I was torn about whether to investigate further but decided to ask for help, hoping it was unrelated to Sheila. Time passed, and nearly half a year had gone by. I hadn't heard from Sheila for a while, and her father-in-law's first death anniversary was approaching. I was concerned about Sheila's situation but understood she might not talk about it herself, so I quietly waited for her to contact me. I expected some communication as the anniversary drew near. That night, the phone at the restaurant rang. Sheila? Is that really you, Sheila? I exclaimed loudly, momentarily forgetting my surroundings after hearing her voice for the first time in a while. Sheila, what's happening? I can't hear you clearly. Mom, I might be at my limit. I can't eat anything. Her voice came through intermittently, conveying a fragility unlike the active Sheila I knew before. It was clear she was struggling to muster her voice to plead for help. Sheila, what do you mean you can't eat anything? As I asked this, Samuel and the other customers grew quiet, trying to grasp the situation. Samuel then switched the phone to speaker mode. I can't stay in this house anymore. I'm handling everything at home and taking care of my mother-in-law. The exhaustion and stress have made me lose my appetite. Sheila's plea was evident as she struggled to speak. Hearing this, the customers urged, "You must go help her right away." Understood. I'll go and pick you up immediately. Just wait there. One of the customers advised Samuel to come along, and I expressed my gratitude before rushing back to grab the keys. After leaving the restaurant in charge of Samuel's wife, we set off for Sheila's father-in-law's house. During the drive, we quietly hoped for Sheila's safety. Knowing that Sheila, who normally never shows weakness, had asked for help indicated a serious situation. I pondered what could have driven Sheila to this breaking point. As we drove, we arrived at her father-in-law's house before realizing it, and it was already past 10 p.m. Feeling apologetic for the late visit but driven by anxiety, I pressed the intercom. "Yes, who is it at this late hour?" came the response, and the door opened to reveal Violet, who appeared drunk and greeted us with a smile. "I'm sorry to come by so late, Violet. Where is Sheila?" "What's the matter, Stacy? You look frightened." "Did Sheila call you?" "I've been feeling lonely by myself." Violet seemed to be drunk as she cheerfully continued talking. Then she took my hand and tried to pull me towards an inner room like a child. I reflexively shook off her hand and raised my voice. "Please tell me where Sheila is. I've come to pick her up." Violet stopped and gave me a sharp look that reminded me of the funeral. "Why pick her up?" "I mean it." Violet could not hide her irritation, but I responded directly. Just then, I heard a voice from behind say, "Mom." So I looked in that direction. A gaunt Sheila stood there, staggering as she walked. "Sheila, are you okay? You look so thin." "And you say you can't even swallow food. What happened?" Seeing her, I became worried about what had caused her to be this way. Normally active, it was distressing to see her suffering like this. While I thought this, Sheila began to speak quietly. "I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go home." "What are you talking about? This is your home, isn't it?" Faced with Violet's fury, Sheila calmly began to argue. "I can't bear it anymore. I'm leaving this house. I can't handle the responsibility of the household and taking care of you anymore." She asserted this and grabbed my arm, explaining what had happened. After her father-in-law's death, Violet completely abandoned household duties. Initially, Sheila watched over her, thinking Violet was just shocked and unable to move, but gradually Violet began to go out and came home drunk late at night. I was concerned about her health, but thought occasional drinking was forgivable. However, she has been drinking almost every night now. Additionally, I've had to pick her up late at night or was suddenly called out. There were times I returned home just before dawn, even though there's school for the children. "That late? Doesn't your husband say anything?" Sheila answered, "I've talked to him, but my mother-in-law doesn't listen." Gradually it became, "I'll watch the kids, so please take care of Mom." That pressure slowly turned into stress, and before I knew it, I lost my appetite. Hearing Sheila's words, I was shocked and at a loss for words. Suddenly Violet, who had been silent, said something unexpected. "Since you've come to this house, it's your duty to take care of me." "Violet, what are you saying? Sheila is not a slave. You push the household chores onto her and go out late at night. And you expect her to prioritize you over her own children. Why is that bad? I am the head of this house. It's only natural for you to follow my orders." Realizing that my words were not getting through, I was thinking about the next steps when I heard the front door open. I suddenly realized I had forgotten something important and hurried towards the door. "I'm sorry. I was so worried about Sheila that I completely forgot about everything else." As I spoke, a man entered with a smile, saying, "No problem." "Hey, why are you here?" Violet started trembling as she saw the man. The reason was clear. He was Parker, the young man Violet had been meeting night after night. The surprise affected not just Violet but also Sheila. "Mom, why are you with him?" As Sheila asked, I prepared to explain the situation to the two surprised parties. Samuel had been investigating. He witnessed Violet and Parker together several times. Actually, Parker used to be a subordinate of Samuel's. He has shared quite a lot of details with us. As Violet became uncomfortable, I continued to inquire, "Did you meet at a bar?" And then quickly started going out together, right? There must be more to it, isn't there? Violet's face changed color, and she suddenly became furious. "So you made Parker tell everything? Since he was your subordinate, did you pressure him into telling you everything?" I was taken aback by her reaction and searched for words to reply, but then Parker calmly spoke up. "Thank you for everything so far, Sheila. You don't have to worry anymore. Please feel free to return to your family home." As he said this, he approached Violet and began to speak. Parker told Violet, "We've informed Sheila's family about everything. Let's not burden her any further." "Why? I'm not causing Sheila any pain," Violet protested. Parker responded firmly, "When we first met, Sheila was much healthier than she is now. She has lost a lot of weight and her complexion has worsened. Please do not make her suffer anymore." Hearing this, Violet hesitantly looked towards Sheila. I hoped that Violet would finally understand the gravity of the situation, but her response was unexpected. "So what? Sheila is a part of this household, and it's only natural for her to take care of me. Isn't that right?" "Sheila." Violet sought agreement from Sheila. However, Sheila stood her ground and countered, "I can't endure it anymore. No matter what you say, I'm returning to my parents' home." She said this decisively, clutching my arm even as she trembled. Seeing this, Violet spoke again, "I won't allow it. I will never allow you to leave this house." Without responding to Sheila's resolve, Violet started walking towards the front door. I was at a loss. I wanted to find a way to take Sheila away from here and protect her. At that moment, Parker approached Violet, took her hand, and said, "I'm truly glad to see you're feeling better. Violet, ever since we first met, I have been waiting for the day when you would smile genuinely. You helped me find my spirit again," Violet said with a smile, but Parker's smile had vanished. His expression turned grave as he continued, "While I'm glad you care about me, Violet, I cannot respect someone who does not consider her family." "What are you talking about?" "I do care about my family," Violet retorted, to which Parker showed a look of astonishment. I decided to silently observe this scene. I wanted to somehow convince Violet to accept the situation, and I wanted her to fully understand the current circumstances. If that's the case, shouldn't you have been happy about your grandson's school entrance, even if it was just after your husband passed away? If you don't do that, even your husband in heaven won't be at peace," Parker said sternly. Violet was left speechless and lowered her head. Despite her silence, Parker continued to speak. "Furthermore, take another look at Sheila. If you really care about family, how do you feel about her current situation? Seeing her thin and suffering, can you still say you care about family? That's unavoidable because she's married into the family. It's all for everyone's good," she replied. Then, the previously calm Parker shouted in anger, "Accept reality. How much more do you need to hurt her to be satisfied?" Violet was shocked by this outburst and looked at Sheila again, finally realizing the severity of the situation from Sheila's trembling form, and collapsed right there. "I'm so sorry," What have I been doing?" Violet said tearfully. I moved closer to her and soothed her back, saying, "Violet, I understand it's lonely without your husband, but you can't make yourself happy by making someone else suffer. I'm really sorry," Violet repeated, crying. After that, the conversation calmed down, and Sheila was able to safely return home. Sheila's husband, recognizing his part in the situation, readily accepted her decision to file for divorce. The children were also happy to be able to live in our house with Sheila. Meanwhile, Violet ended her relationship with Parker, but I heard from Samuel's friend that Parker really did care about Violet. However, it seemed that Parker was concerned about Sheila getting involved regularly in transportations. When Samuel asked about Violet, Parker decided to confess his true feelings. Hearing Parker's true intentions, Violet was shocked and fell ill. The reason for her bedridden state was not only because Parker broke up with her, but also because she believed that her actions had driven her daughter-in-law and grandchildren out of the house. Still, this incident might have been a moment for Violet to reflect on her actions towards Sheila. Later, we took Sheila to the hospital for a checkup. The examination showed no physical issues, but the diagnosis was that the stress from the past would not easily go away. This made me more determined to take even better care of Sheila. Nevertheless, since returning to her hometown, she has been smiling a bit more, which has been a relief. "Mom, I'm hungry. Can you make something?" "Sure, I'll whip something up with what we have left. Just wait a bit." "Okay." Recently, Sheila's appetite has returned, and she has become confident enough to ask for food even when there are guests around. Visitors to the restaurant also comment with a smile that not only Sheila but also my grandchildren are regaining their childlike spirits. Everyone chats and laughs, all the while hoping for Sheila's swift recovery.